Hi, everyone, and welcome to week 3 of class. Dr. Bell here. Hopefully, you're all enjoying the pacing of the class. I want to remind you again to check out our announcements on a somewhat regular basis. I do post my Wednesday writing tips, and last Wednesday I talked a little bit about, how do we come up with a topic for an academic essay. So we're entering week 3, and in week 2, I did ask you to go ahead and start thinking about topics that you posted to Flipgrid. So in week 3, as noted, we're starting a couple of important assignments. We're doing some readings on the writing process, and so here are some step-by-step directions that you can study and think about and reflect upon. And you'll be submitting this research essay planning document by the end of the week. Remember, I reminded you of those directions in week 2, so hopefully you've been thinking about this for a little while. Remember, as I've noted several times now, it's best if you can try to work on these projects maybe for a couple hours a day rather than waiting until Sunday night. I know that Sunday night is the due date. That doesn't mean it's the date that you work on the project. It's really important to kind of make sure you're portioning your work out day by day, spending maybe an hour a day or something like that, because you always want to leave a little bit of time on Sunday nights just to make sure you proofread everything, you look at it over carefully, and that you don't have any technology issues. Sometimes what can happen in a class is if we do wait until the very last minute and then we suddenly realize we have a poor Wi-Fi signal when we're submitting, that can be disastrous. So all that in mind, this planning document I talked about last time, but basically you're showing me what it is you plan on writing about in your research position essay. So what is it that you think you're going to write? And this should be in a somewhat of like an essay format, not just bulleted numbers. So we're going to practice using some topic sentences here, some transition words to connect one point to the next, and it only has to be two 4 pages double spaced. So I know that even if you don't love writing, everyone can write at least 2 pages double spaced. We are using MLA format, so again, you might want to visit the OWL at Purdue or some of the other resources I've provided. But in this document, you're basically mapping out a brief, almost like selling me on what this idea is. So you want to make sure that this is a topic that other people care about, that it's something that is worth our time and consideration. How do you plan on supporting this argument? Are there subclaims that you can help support your position? What's the background of this topic? Like, how long has this been an issue? 5 years, a year, 200 years? I'm not really sure. How long has this been something that people have disagreed about? How do other people really feel about this issue in society at large? And so I said, if you want, you could check out some data from like the Pew Research Center, or you could look at data from a government website or something of that nature. Who is affected by this, right? Is it everyone? Is it just some people who maybe are receiving some of the benefits or some of the other effects of this problem? And then what are some counter arguments? It's important that you can think about what the counter arguments are to your position essay. If there are no counter arguments, then it's not really an argument paper, right? So these 8 key pieces of information are what need to be included in this document. And once again, this is your first sort of formal project that you're submitting for this class. So I'd like it to be in essay form, not just answering the question. So try to add some language there, such as, like I said, some transition words, topic sentences, and things like that. This is a 100-point essay. And again, in order to submit it, you're going to click right here when you feel the call to do so. You can view the rubric. In fact, all of our major assignments do have rubrics. It's important that you look at these when they're available because it shows you exactly how I'll be grading the project. So, does the project answer all 8 of the questions? You get up to 30 points for that. Is this something that's original, innovative? And when I say exigency, right here, this word, that means is this something that's of the now? Like don't write about something that maybe was an issue 25 years ago. We want to write about something that's happening now. We're also going to be getting some points for MLA formatting, of course. I know that that's going to be new for some of us, but doing your best to follow the rules. And again, those rules are going to be pretty minimal for this project because you're not required to use any sources yet. Grammar. Good grammar is used throughout. Again, I'm not necessarily looking for perfection, but Things like capitalizing the word I, that counts for a lot for me. Trying to write in the active voice. I know some of you are coming from the sciences where it's more common to write in the passive voice, but using active voice. We also want to make sure we're avoiding things like run-on sentences or sentence fragments. So I'll talk about those in my next Wednesday writing tip because those are two pretty common issues I see in student writing. And then finally here, I talk about organization. It says proper topic sentences are used and transition words. So notice that I've called attention to that several times in this video. So this is the rubric for this particular assignment. Again, it's always helpful in any class to look these over before you hit submit. And so hopefully most of you are familiar with the process, but you will submit it through this particular vehicle right here. You're going to hit submit. You can browse your local files, and you do need to make sure it's either a Word document or PDF. We have others here, which are a little less common, but you wouldn't be turning in a PowerPoint for this particular assignment. So document or PDF, not Pages. If you're working in Pages because you're on a Mac, that's fine. Just do an export as a document or a PDF. If you don't know how to do that, let me know. You can email me at belle, and I will give you a quick video on how to do that. All right, so the other big assignment we're starting this week, which I'm pretty excited about, is our group project. And so when you're in your version of Blackboard, you should also see information here about the group you're in. If you have any questions about that, you can let me know. But you can review the directions for the group project. Okay, I posted that in week 1, but I moved them down here again. It's a fairly straightforward group project. I'm just asking you to produce like a brochure or a pamphlet in Microsoft Word, if you'd like, that explains a little bit about digital news literacy. This is because one of our outcomes for this class is to use appropriate research strategies with a variety of resources to support research papers and other academic arguments, including analyzing sources and synthesizing sources. And that's really important because I know most of you are probably going to be tempted to just use a search engine like Google or Bing or DuckDuckGo to find research for your research essay. And that's a great start, but we're going to talk more in our next few weeks about using the library and the library databases to find good research, because what we find in digital news is that sometimes some of the sources are biased. We can also run across things online that are not true at all. So it's really important that we start to think about using the web in an effective manner, but also one that thinks about whether sources are credible or not, right? And so in this project, you're going to be putting together a brochure or pamphlet. You're going to be giving us information about digital literacy. You can give me tips and small little articles. Think of this, if you want, instead of a brochure, maybe like a newsletter. But how do I determine if something's real or fake? What are some guidelines of doing that? How can I find quality sources at the Detroit Mercy Library? How does one do that? What's a step-by-step way of doing that? How can I find out if an article is fake, and what are some good websites for fact checking? There are several really good sources out there that will tell you and fact check for you. How do you determine if something is biased, and what are the differences between these types of websites? Because you will be using sources here, this should have MLA style. You can include graphics, like some of these could be step-by-step little infographics or charts. You could embed some videos if you think that's going to work. You can do all kinds of things here. The idea is just I'm having you explore what it means to be digitally literate, and you're going to be providing this information back in a written, whether it's a newsletter or whether we call it a brochure. But I think this will be a fun team project. And so I've given you some possible sources that I think could be helpful. I'm looking for 4 to 6 pages, and so those are 4 full pages. But again, you're able to include graphics and charts and things like that. Everyone in the group is going to receive the same grade, so it's really important that you have group harmony and collaboration, and that's why our very first group discussion, mine's not showing up because I'm not in a group, because I'm not a student, that will be really critical for your success. So again, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, if you have any trouble finding the group space, let me know. But the first discussion is really thinking about, how is your team going to function? What are you best at? What would you like to do in this team? Maybe someone here is already really awesome at graphic design and they're like, well, I'd like to design this brochure. Maybe someone else is like, I do feel like I have a good sense of finding information. Maybe someone else wants to be a proofreader and writer. So that's what you're kind of working out in this first discussion post. Again, this is another way of hopefully getting to know your classmates beyond just a very, we're disconnected because this is an asynchronous course. So I'm hoping that will connect us. If you want to shoot forward to week 4, just to get a good sense of what's coming up down the pike, so to speak, or what's coming up next, we're continuing. Okay, here's where I sort of think about the directions for your research position essay. There's no reason why you can't read ahead, but this is like what it's going to look like, what my expectations will be, final 6 to 8 page paper, double spaced. And so the next larger assignment you're going to be doing isn't due until week 5. But that's going to be requiring that we do a little research using the library. So I'll be really excited for next week when I talk to you about using our Detroit Mercy libraries to find source information. Because like I said, most students come into the class knowing full well how to use web search engines, but what we find there isn't always reliable. So one difference in academic rating is we should start to branch out and be finding credible sources through our library. These aren't always from scholarly research journals, although they can be, but they're also from credible popular sources like well-regarded newspapers like the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, etc. I will see you soon. I'm getting some voicemails coming in and some Teams messages, so we will talk soon. Have a great week, folks.